All right, Module 6. So this is the module where you start to really hate the course, unfortunately, or you start to hate me. It's the biggest module and takes the most amount of time. So let's kind of explain some of it. You should be done Module 4 and 5 at this point. There are 4 parts to Module 6, 4 discussion posts, and then an actual assignment that is the larger one of actually creating a lesson plan for me. So Module 6 is all about professional knowledge. How much do you actually know about the curriculum that you are going to teach? So the idea of part 1 in that is to get familiar with the strands of the actual course code that you have picked. Look at the sample course outline that's on there. Because how you divide up a course is usually the very first thing that you have to do as soon as you get assigned this. So a principal says you're going to be teaching HSP3U, and the next day you have to turn around and give a course outline and describe everything that you're going to do in that course. It's basically a syllabus for the students. So it can be very overwhelming if you've never seen one, never made one. So it's a chance to kind of research that, have a look at what that looks like. Think deeply about how you want the knowledge, thinking, and application criteria to be divided. If you change the weight on that, then you have to do the math throughout the course. It's certainly been done, but think if that's applicable to the course that you're doing, or you'd rather keep it even. And then you're going to submit that course outline in the discussion area and comment on another person's course outline. Don't necessarily have to pick somebody else that's doing the same course code as you, but ideally you'll be looking at other people that are going to do the same thing as you. Next, and there are some resources about learning goals and success criteria. This has certainly become the new buzzwords in the last couple of years, at least in my board. Maybe it's been buzzing longer if you're in elementary. So if you have no idea what those things are, spend some time on Edugain. Chances are if you're interviewing for any jobs in the near future, they will ask you some kind of question about learning goals and success criteria. So learning goals are directly from the curriculum document and then rewritten in student-friendly language. The goals should be posted in your classroom in theory versus just verbally done. However, I personally use them in my slides because I have a smart board. But going over like what are we learning today with students, and I should see that in your lesson plan as well. And then looking at success criteria when we're coming to an actual evaluation piece, building a rubric together, doing some co-constructing, building on that. I'm also looking for that as well in your lesson planning. The research says if we do these two things, then it retains more students. If students are more aware what they're learning about and how they're going to be marked, then they will be more successful, and it totally makes sense. And so now we're just being a little bit more explicit in doing it in our daily practice. All right, part 2 is about how I'm being marked. Speaking of that success criteria, this is what the students always ask the very first day, how is this breaking down? So in secondary, there is accommodating usually at the end of every unit, as well as, or it might be called summative, the terms get tossed around, as well as there's accommodating for the whole course. All right, so the course, we can't change this, the government has decided that 70% of their mark has to be done on what the students do throughout the course, and then 30% is divided between the exam and some other kind of culminating task. How you divide that, that's up to you. 10% on the exam, 20% on the task, 15-15, whatever you want to do, you can divide that. And then the 70% is all the other culminating, everything at the end of each unit, or if you're doing tests or quizzes or what other evaluation piece you're putting in there belongs in the 70. And then backtracking, thinking a little bit of scaffolding. So for example, when you do the HSB course, often the culminating at the end of the course is for the students to design a social science experiment, and they have to do kind of the write-up about it. Well, that means at some point in one of the units, you should probably do a culminating task for that unit about collecting data, just collecting data, and what that mean, so that they have that knowledge so that they're successful in designing their science experiment. So when you're looking at your course outline, if you can get down that kind of specific of what the culminating tasks are going to be for each unit and how that connects to the overall summative task for the whole course, it can really help clarify things for students if you can get that far in your actual planning, your course outline. All right. Part 3, what are we learning today? Our students ask this on a daily basis, and it's all about the learning goals, right? The students are literally asking, what are you going to teach me? What does the curriculum document say we should be learning about? So looking at your own planning, reviewing what a lesson plan should look like, what students should be learning in a day. We've already talked about how long-winded the Nipissing plan is. Let's not get back into that. The point of this discussion thing is for you to actually go and find some lesson plans. So you're actually doing some research for your own course code that you're interested. You find something you like, whether it's a link to Teachers Pay Teachers, something you found on Pinterest, something you've just Googled and found. And that's what you're submitting up there, and that's what you're critiquing. Maybe it's super old and there is no learning goal. Then what is going to be your learning goal in there? How are you going to change that lesson plan that you found and rework it? Maybe it is perfect and you want to explain why it's so perfect. Maybe you love the template, maybe you hate the template that's on there. So a chance for you to post a model or sample lesson plan and then discuss it. And this connects back to the actual assignment for this course where you're actually going to have to write me a lesson plan for your own. Part 4 is about higher order thinking. When you're designing the lessons and thinking about what are they learning today and their goals, we always want to achieve students thinking independently, right? So there's some readings to do and respond to the quote or the prompts. It's really the so what of the lesson. So why did we just learn that? Why should students even be thinking about it? How are you going to engage students in critical thinking during your lesson plans? That they're thinking on their own and they're not just Googling to find an answer. It's not something they can plagiarize. It's something they have to think on their own. What are you going to do to ensure that in your lesson planning? Alright, and then the actual assignment. I know, it's really long. Assignment 7 is actually creating a full-on, long lesson plan for me, all laid out in all the pretty boxes and everything. My advice is pick a good template. If you really hate the Nipissing one, that's fine. But you should be using some kind of template. So whether you went to York or something and you have another great one or you found one online, use that template instead. That's fine with me. Just make sure you include all the items from the checkbox that's on that assignment page. When you're designing that lesson for me, make sure it's a good one. Something that you would want your advisor to come in to see or your associate to see. Don't make it like a work period or you're going to watch a movie today. It should be something very engaging that you're trying to show off to me and show off your planning skills. So make sure it's student-centered. Make sure it's trying to answer the so what. Why are we learning this? Is there some kind of good DI going on? Did you integrate technology? Are the students engaged? Would it appeal to a millennial learner? Will it appeal to a 17 to 18-year-old? Remember that you are going to that senior level, so make sure it's something exciting. Just on a side note, when you do your unit plan for me, you won't have to write all these out in such a long-winded manner. I really just kind of need like a step-by-step bullet list of like this happens and that happens and this happens. But probably a learning goal at the beginning of each lesson for that unit plan would be helpful for me. Alright, and that is it for Module 6. It's super long. Take your time, do it in chunks, and you will get through it, I promise. And then after this, all the other ones are much shorter, if that's helpful. So, good luck with that. Email me anytime with questions. Thanks.